All right, so I finally saw The Flash. And let me just say, I'm actually quite surprised. Like, I know everybody's been hyping this movie up like it's the second coming of Christ. I'm going to be honest, I thought it sounded like half the critics were held hostage or at gunpoint. But, yeah, no, I finally watched The Flash, and let me tell you, it's actually a really good film. At first, I was really hopeful for The Flash, and I was really hopeful that it would pull through. But then I started to lose hope as I saw more cam rips on Twitter and more just scenes being leaked and just more of the VFX just not looking the best. And as more of that came out, I just started to lose hope. But no, yeah, I finally saw it the other night, and it is a pretty damn good movie. I would go as far as to say it's really good. Although The Flash is far from a perfect Flash movie, it is definitely a really good Flash movie. I feel like we get a lot of time with Barry Allen in this film. The core with Barry Allen's mom and his dad was also really good. I've lost a parent before, so seeing those scenes of Barry, interacting with his mom again got me quite emotional, which I think is a neat surprise because the movie seems like it's advertised as Batman the movie, basically. Batman Part 3, Batman Returns Part 2. That's what it feels like in the advertisements. And I feel like part of the reason for that is definitely because of the Ezra Miller situation. But you know what? I'm going to say it. I think it's kind of smart that DC did that. They put Batman 1989 in this film. And in a way, I feel like that's going to bait the audience into watching this. And in a way, I feel like it's going to bait them into falling in love with this iteration of Barry Allen, The Flash. Say what you want about Ezra Miller, but they absolutely killed it in this film. Barry Allen and his emotions and how he bounces off of the other Barry Allen is just absolutely wonderful. I absolutely love the scenes where older Barry and younger Barry are interacting. It made me think a lot about what I would do in that situation because I feel like a lot of us would get annoyed with our younger selves. And in a way, Andy Muschietti uses that to acknowledge the criticisms that this Barry Allen has faced in movies like the Joss Whedon's Justice League. It acknowledges that with the younger Barry, and it was nice to see kind of Barry Allen grow because of that. And I feel like Ezra Miller pulled it off, and the Barry Allen energy is really there. I loved the supporting cast. I wish we got to see more of them. I really hope we get to see more of this world. I really hope we get to see a sequel to this film. Whether James Gunn will do that or not, I'm not sure. I know he really likes the film, but at the end of the day, the controversy surrounding it might affect the outlook of this film because at the end of the day, James Gunn said he liked Man of Steel, and you know what? That didn't mean shit for Henry Cavill, so I don't know. I don't know what to hope for anymore. I really want to see more of this world. We get to see more of Ben Affleck and even a tiny bit of Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman and Superman on the TV because Henry Cavill couldn't make it to the set, I guess. It comedically works, though, for the scene for Superman not to be there because it requires Barry Allen to be at that location in that very moment. And it gets in the way of his daily activities and what he's trying to do. This movie also acknowledges the Snyder Cut, which I absolutely love because for so long, Snyder fans on Twitter have been saying, like, no, this isn't canon. But no, I mean, this film directly acknowledges things that only happened in the Snyder Cut. Like, basically, anytime it references Justice League, it's only referencing events that have happened in the Snyder Cut. Like Barry reversing time or meeting Iris West. I'm just glad Andy Muschietti and Barbara Muschietti decided to extend the Snyderverse in a way. And in a way, it was a big love letter to the Snyderverse. And I loved seeing Barry Allen's perspective of the Man of Steel events. That was wonderful. I love seeing that stuff. I wish we could see more of that. I mean, it makes me sad this universe is ending because This universe has a lot of potential. There's a lot of great films in this. Like, yeah, there's a lot of shitty movies. Suicide Squad sucks. Yeah, Aquaman is a disaster. Wonder Woman is bland as hell, but it seems to do well with the general audiences as well as Aquaman. So you know what? Maybe it's just not for me. But look, a lot of these movies do well, and even the ones that don't do well with the general audiences, they have an audience elsewhere. And it sucks that we're not going to see any more of this from what it seems. Except for Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad cast. Which, just to me, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if I'm really excited for that. I want to see more of this version of the DC universe. Zack Snyder's Justice League was a great way to set up the universe that James Gunn could continue building. I don't see the point in recasting Superman and Batman unless it's for financial reasons, because I know DC right now isn't doing too hot. Maybe they just don't have enough money. Maybe that's the case, and maybe Ben Affleck is just done. And you know what? If that's the case, that's fine. I just want to keep Ezra Miller, and I want to keep Wonder Woman. I want to keep Aquaman. I want to keep as much as we know already, because I feel like if you just start clean, you might lose a lot of investment from the general audience. Whenever Batman first shows up, Ben Affleck and Michael Keaton, man, I got so many goosebumps. It was great to see. I loved seeing Ben Affleck, and just the music was wonderful. It gave me kind of a Danny Elfman whimsical vibe, and the movie just had this kind of vibe about it that just screamed kind of 80s summer blockbuster, something that would have came out back in the day. I feel like Andy Muschietti is just really good at that. Judging from his work on It and The Flash, he really gives that energy off in his films that, you could tell he grew up watching those kind of movies. And maybe it's the fact that you could tell Andy Muschietti grew up watching those movies in the 80s, like Back to the Future and Batman 89. And this film kind of calls back to those. There's a cool little Easter egg with Eric Stoltz being the Marty McFly of the Younger Barry's universe, because the time travel here works differently. It's basically Barry's just hopping between timelines. He can't change the past ever in his timeline. He's really just going into another timeline anytime he does. And it's explained by Michael Keaton using spaghetti. And that scene is actually really good. And I feel like that was a Phil Lord and Chris Miller scene. And I feel like they wrote that in, and it's just been there since the beginning. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's just the vibe I kind of got from that scene. Michael Keaton was great. His entrance was really good. I could tell that they used his stunt double for like a lot of it. I mean, I don't think Michael Keaton can move like that, obviously. I was just worried when I saw set photos because it seemed like he wasn't there that often. And yeah, when you watch the movie, you could tell like they kind of wrote it so Michael Keaton could be, kind of separate from everybody else, so he could just come in on one day on set, get his scenes done, and boom, that's it. But in a way, it still worked. It still worked, and they pulled it off really well. And his death in the film, I don't know if it's going to be controversial or not, but I think it really worked. I really liked seeing this Batman actually be fulfilled in life. He actually completed his mission. Gotham is now one of the safest cities, and that's great. It's great to see an old hero, just doing well, doing good, and, go out with a bang. I'm glad we got to see it. And Supergirl is also really good. General Zod is in the film. He's more of a ticking time bomb. It does put you on the edge of your seat when General Zod is coming. And it's almost like if you could stop 9/11, basically. It's like a movie about that in a way. It's like, what the hell do we do if we know 9/11's coming? But hey, I mean, they are playing with the previous events. That wasn't Andy Muschietti's choice to have that event resemble something like a real-life tragedy. That was more Zack Snyder's choice, which is controversial, to say the least. But hey, there is that. Which, hey, I'm not saying Man of Steel is bad. I'm just saying that choice was controversial. And I can see why, although I think it works for the films. But yeah, the film was great. The emotions were great. The comedy, the humor was great. Iris West was great. I wish she got to do more. I really do. I wish she got to do more, and I want to see more of this Flash cast. Even if Ezra Miller doesn't come back, I hope everybody else stays, and I hope this canon's just still intact somehow. And, I can't not talk about the ending, of course. George Clooney pops in as Batman. They save the one F word for a PG-13 rating for the very end, where Barry's like, who the hell is this? And yeah, we see George Clooney pop up as Batman, and yeah, it got a good reaction in my theater. People were laughing pretty hard to that, and in a way brought me back to that feeling I had when I first watched like The Amazing Spider-Man. You know, I didn't watch like a perfect movie, but I watched something fun that made me feel good as I left the theater. I felt happy and I felt good and I felt like I had what I needed as I got out of the theater, and that's all I want from a movie. And I'm surprised it actually pulled through and pulled it all off, especially with all the meddling and all the interference from the studio. This film is still really solid, and I definitely recommend it. The VFX work is definitely kind of shoddy, and I will say, like, look, I'll say this, I really liked the first It. I thought the VFX work was also kind of shitty there, too. And maybe it's because Andy Muschietti is still, you know, grappling with how to use visual effects. I'm not sure. Or maybe it's because the budget just wasn't there, or maybe just the employment wasn't there. I don't know. I wasn't there, all right? I don't know what these guys went through to get this movie, or maybe all the VFX guys just really fucking hated this movie and just didn't want to try that hard. Andy Muschietti has gone on the record to say that it is supposed to look weird whenever Barry Allen is in the Speed Force, which at first sounded like bullshit to me, but when you watch the movie, you can kind of see what he means because the VFX work is a lot better in most of the movie, but whenever Barry is traveling fast, things start to blur. Whenever Barry does travel through the Speed Force, it's kind of like almost like a dome on top of sand, and it honestly looks really visually impressive at times, but everybody around Barry, when he sees his past events, it basically looks like video game cutscenes, and whether that was intentional or not, I'm not sure, but it seems like maybe it was, because it looks like he's looking at it through like a lens in a way. It's not really that he's looking at it directly. And we also see little moments that are only in the Snyder Cut, like Aquaman pointing at, you know, Barry Allen. And that was really neat, man. I'm really happy the Snyder Cut is canon officially. It's crazy that they said it wasn't. It seems like Andy Muschietti from the beginning was planning on making the Snyder Cut canon, whether they wanted them to or not, or at least leaving it open-ended as much as they could. Because at Comic-Con, Ezra Miller was quoted as saying Justice League Films, not Justice League or Justice League the Snyder Cut. He just said Justice League Films, and this kind of picks up after that. They kind of left it open-ended at first, and then Walter Hamada and the other producers were like, no, it's not canon. It's just a little pocket. But no, it seems like it actually is canon, which does create more plot holes because, you know, Amber Heard is British in that movie. But look, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, as long as each movie is great and stands on its own, that's all I care about. I don't give a shit about universe consistency too much, as long as it's consistent enough. I feel like the MCU worries about it too much, and it's to the point where it kind of hurts the stories. And the X-Men universe didn't worry about it at all, and it hurt the stories a lot there. So I'm glad DC kind of did something kind of like in the middle approach, which is kind of even more worrying now that James Gunn is kind of running the whole thing, because it makes me feel like maybe it's all going to be a little too manufactured in a way, a little too fast food like with its release schedule. But yeah, at the end of the day, The Flash was a great film, gave a lot of Back to the Future vibes, and, you know, it was just a great Flash film in general. And, you know, we still don't know who killed Barry's mom, and I hope we get to find out in a later sequel. And yeah, it leaves it open-ended for Reverse Flash to come in, and I'm really excited for the future of this character, if there is one. But yeah, even if this is the only Flash movie, I'm just blessed that we got one. I'm just really happy with it, and I can't believe Robert Zemeckis was on board to direct this film at one point. I feel like it would have been really fun if he did, but I'm glad Andy Muschietti did. And now that he's directing Brave and the Bold, You know what? I hope George Clooney comes back as Batman. I said it, and I hope he gets redemption, because I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind if George Clooney got some kind of redemption arc as Batman, and that doesn't mean Batman and Robin necessarily needs to be canon. I feel like it's not. I feel like this universe that Barry ends in at the end of the film is very much just a very similar universe where Bruce Wayne just happens to look different. I guess a different sperm got to the egg. I don't know. But hey, it's the multiverse. Anything is possible. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. Don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe for more content. And I will see you guys later.